Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Braja Jana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramhamsa Parivrajikacharya Astota Stada Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki ISKCON Guru Vrinda ki Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Prem se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan ki Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki Shri Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki Ganga Maya ki Yamuna Maya ki Bhakti Devi ki Tulasi Devi ki Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Sama Bhakta Vrinda ki Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So Hare Krishna. Praying you all had a blissful Janmashtami and Prabhupada Vyasa Puja. I know we're all recovering from it as well. So 3 weeks ago we started the study of Sri Isopanisad. His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj went through the invocation, which was perfect and complete. Then we had Jai Prabhu last week, who spoke about Mantra 1, which was the Isya Vasyam principle. And this week we're going to go into Mantra 2. So before we begin, we'll just offer up praise to our Guru Parampara. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Tadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sargajatam Sahagana Ragutantam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakavdidamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda. All together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyavicha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So, Hare Krishna. Okay, so like we mentioned, we started with mantra 2 last week. So in the Sri Isopanisad, mantra 1 to 3 covers the proprietorship of the Lord. And today, mantra 2 is going to cover the application of the Isyavasya principle, which is a long life. So the verse goes, Kurvan eveha karmani jijive shek chatam samaha evam tvai nanyaytetosti na karma lipyate nare. Translation. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on working in that way, for that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. There is no alternative to this for man. So on the onset, there's 2 points that come up. Is 1, everyone wants to live forever, and 2, this karma, their work, people want to work to accumulate more than they have. So we'll start with the first line of Srila Prabhupada's purport. So the purport is by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And it says, no one wants to die. Everyone wants to live as long as he can drag on. So from a material point of view, I'm sure we can all think of many examples of people who are living or are as old as possible, but still want to have the material pleasures. We can think of former presidents in different countries, sometimes the monarchy, people want to enjoy this material world as much as they can. But, we all know that there is some limit to it, because this body is temporary. So in this verse, there's 3 aspects that are covered. So there's karma, vikarma, and akarma. So karma, which I'm sure we're all familiar with, is defined by Srila Prabhupada as actions that are performed in terms of one's prescribed duties, as mentioned in the revealed scriptures. So that's karma. Vikarma is actions that are performed through the misuse of one's freedom, and that direct one to the lower life forms. So more like sinful activities. And then you get akarma. So according to Sanskrit, when there's a in front of it, or it's a negative. So when you say akarma, it actually means that actions that are free from the cycle of birth and death. So having looked at the Isyavasyam principle, I'll just read the first verse from Sri Isopanisad, because I think this is the foundation of what we're going to study. It says, everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. So this Isyavasyam principle is that Krishna is the supreme controller. And this Isyavasyam principle transforms karma to akarma. So if we apply this Isyavasyam principle in our lives by putting Krishna in the center, we will not have any reactions to our actions, because everything is according to Krishna's desires. So we'll go through the purport paragraph by paragraph. So I'll just read the first paragraph that Srila Prabhupada wrote. It says, "No one wants to die. Everyone wants to live as long as he can drag on. This tendency is visible not only individually, but also collectively in the community, society, and nation. There's a hard struggle for life by all kinds of living entities, and the Vedas say that this is quite natural. The living being is eternal by nature, but due to his bondage in material existence, he has to change his body over and over. This process is called transmigration of the soul, or karma bandha, bondage by one's work. The living entity has to work for his livelihood because that is the law of material nature. And if he does not act according to his prescribed duties, he transgresses the law of nature and binds him more and more to the cycle of birth and death in the many species of life." So the main word from this purport is karma bandha. Karma bandha. And Srila Prabhupada gave a really nice definition in a lecture. And he says, "Karma bandha means so long we do not know what is our duty. We create our position differently, and therefore sometimes we suffer, sometimes we enjoy. Therefore we must know what is our duty. That we have forgotten. Na te vidu sarva katim hi Vishnum. In this material condition of life, we have forgotten what is our actually aim of life. Therefore, Krishna comes, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata tadand manam srijamai aham. Our duty, when we forget our dharma, that is called dharmasya glanir. Dharma is not a religious sentiment. Dharma means our occupational duty, real meaning. I think I have given in Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we forget our duty, that is called dharmasya glanir. Glanir means deterioration of our real occupational duty." And this was in a lecture in Los Angeles, December 1973. So we see that this karma bandha is what links us or attaches us to this material world. And we're really fortunate to be in this type of situation where we understand Krishna consciousness, where we understand the meaning of our life. But there's so many out there that don't know, what their purpose of their life is. And you see people trying to search out different aspects of material enjoyment just to find some happiness. But we know that happiness lies in Krishna's happiness, and that's, the beautiful aspect of Krishna consciousness. The other thing about karma bandha that Srila Prabhupada highlights is that when we don't have the proper leadership in our society, at large, so when we studied Bhakti Shastri, we learned there's 4 Varnas and 4 Ashrams. And under the 4 Varnas is the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. And the Brahmanas are meant to be leading society. And I'm sure you can all agree that our current society, meaning our country, the world, if you look at it in a broader perspective, we have leaders who are not leading the general public. They, a word that comes to mind is like corruption. It's become such a normal thing in our daily, when you look at the news and you see all these headlines, it's been such a common theme that comes up. So if we don't have the right leadership, people won't know what their duty is. And that comes to a very important point of having a spiritual master. So when you take to Krishna consciousness, it is, a bit challenging finding out what your duty is. And that's where Srila Prabhupada, I'm sure for those who've been on book distribution, if you distribute a book and you go back to that person who would have read it, I've had an instance where, they actually found that they know where their life was heading, whereas before it was just trying to find happiness in temporary things. So Srila Prabhupada's books really give us that guidance of where we need to be, what is our duty as servants of Krishna. So so our general leadership in our world aren't really following this Krishna conscious process or the Isya Vasyam principle. Really, that's what holds our society and Krishna consciousness together, is that we know that everything is owned and controlled by Krishna. Like if anything goes wrong, oh Krishna, or when something goes right, like Partha Sarati Maharaj said yesterday, when something goes right, it's Krishna's mercy, I'll leave it as that. But this Isya Vasyam principle is really what keeps us as devotees alive, because we know that everything is by Krishna's arrangement and Krishna's plans. So I'll further go into this first paragraph. Also talks about the living entities. So it says here, the living entity, the living being, is eternal by nature, but due to his bondage in material existence, he has to change his body over and over. So we see in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Dehosmin yata dehe karmaram yavanam jara tata dehantara pratir tiras tatra na moyahat. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. So we see, in our lives, or when you look at people, they think that they're going to live forever. They even create different tools to look youthful and to try to prolong their lives as much as possible. But the reality is that we aren't, these bodies are temporary. When I was maybe 2 years younger, I didn't think that I would have so many health issues that I do now, So you can see how the body deteriorates, and we just have to, we've been very fortunate to know what our purpose is, but in the general public, this transmigration of the soul is not widely, it's not widely acknowledged. So Krishna here is, Srila Prabhupada, my apologies. Srila Prabhupada is trying to position that, as much as we are the soul, but individuals, try to exploit material nature to a certain extent that they think that they can live forever. However, by applying the Isya Vasyam principle of Krishna being the supreme controller, as devotees, we want to. Let me read this. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if we continue to live under this Isya Vasyam principle, meaning devotional service. Once you get a taste for devotional service, there's no stopping. I'm sure for Janmashtami, so many of you would have slept late or hardly slept preparing for Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. And it's because of this driving force of devotional service that keeps us alive in our life. And an example that we see in the Shikshastakam by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's in the 4th verse. He says, "O mighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor to enjoy beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. What I want is the causeless mercy of your devotional service in my life, birth after birth." So we see this devotional service theme coming up in the Sri Isopanisad through this Isyavasyam principle. And, devotees, no matter how many lives we may go through, but, as long as we have this devotional service, that's what keeps us going as a service to Krishna. I was listening to Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj's class in preparation for today, and he was describing a pastime with Srila Prabhupada, where Srila Prabhupada says, we should never think, or we should always want to come lifetime after lifetime to preach this Krishna consciousness mission. And, that's his transcendental position. But Burijan Prabhu, who was there at the class, later went to Srila Prabhupada and said, he made a comment, "Srila Prabhupada, I want to take birth again and again so I can, preach this Krishna consciousness." And Srila Prabhupada says, don't make your spiritual master come back for you. So the theme is, as much as, the transcendentalists like Srila Prabhupada, they have the potency to do that. But our desire as sadhana bhaktas is that we should aspire to go back home, back to Godhead in this lifetime. And in Maharaj's class, he said that it is possible because Srila Prabhupada has given us the necessary tools to do that. And we can see if we apply this Ishyavasyam principle like really deep into our lives, everything becomes a service to Krishna, whether it's our daily jobs or cooking or cleaning the house. It's something that is an offering to Krishna. And if we have that mood, it transforms the whole experience, because like karma transforms to akarma just by isyavasyam, that can change our whole lives in the sense of it just being a normal material life to a transcendental and a spiritual experience. And talking about our duty, so I know when I was studying on campus, I was very bewildered whether to continue my degree or maybe drop out or go do something a little less, I don't want to say less, just something that's a little more in the mode of goodness. And, when I had actually joined, or not joined, but I came in contact with Krishna consciousness through, sorry, I just want to find this. I came in contact with Krishna consciousness in campus when I was going through I think it was in my 3rd year, and I was thinking of changing to something that I thought was in the mode of goodness. And at that point, I had come in contact with now my spiritual master. So he always says at the end of his class, I am your servant, so if you have any questions, please ask. So I did ask him if I can move my career into a certain direction, and he quoted Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So he sent me this verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18:48, and it says, "Every endeavor is covered by some sort of fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work which is born of his nature, O son of Kunti, even if such work is full of fault. So, having, analyzed that in my life, I found that whatever we do, there's always going to be some fault in it. And we can also see this in Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna doesn't want to fight. He's an anxiety because of so many reasons of he doesn't want to incur sin. So this, Arjuna is presenting this argument of karma, along with other aspects, like he doesn't want, the population to be polluted, and women to be polluted, or unwanted population. There's so many different arguments that he presents to Krishna, but the forefront is that he did not want to incur sin. But Krishna, he transforms this whole experience. When we think about fighting, or it's a very negative, connotation. But here Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight, because that is his duty as a Kshatriya. And with this, instruction, we can see how so Krishna, he tells Arjuna that those who you're going to fight, they're just going to change to another body, So this karma aspect comes up, this change of the soul transmigration comes up, and with this execution of Krishna's duty, there will be no sin. So Srila Prabhupada also states that devotional service means every living entity has a specific duty towards God. God wants everyone to do a particular duty for him, that is service, just like God instructed Arjuna to fight. So to fight was Arjuna's duty. And then I found another extract from Srila Prabhupada's purport in Srimad Bhagavatam 2, Canto 2, Chapter 1, Verse 6. By discharge of religious duties, one can achieve the highest perfection, provided one is able to reach the stage of Narayana Smriti, or constant remembrance of the personality of Godhead. So when you read Nectar of Devotion, one of the first principles you learn is always remember Krishna and never forget him. So you can see that really being emphasized by Srila Prabhupada. So I'll just go back to the purport. So in the third paragraph of the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the instructions of Sri Isopanisad are more elaborately explained in Bhagavad Gita, sometimes called the Gita Upanishad, the cream of all the Upanishads. The Bhagavad Gita 3.9 to 16, the personality of Godhead says that one cannot attain the state of Naishkarmya or akarma without executing the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedic literature. This literature can regulate the working energy of a human being in such a way that he can gradually realize the authority of the Supreme Being. When he realizes the authority of the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva or Krishna, it is to be understood that he has attained the stage of positive knowledge. In this purified stage, the modes of nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance, cannot act, and he is able to work on the basis of Naishkarmya. Such work does not bind one to the cycle of birth and death. So we can see that when we work on this level of akarma, the modes of material nature are not, they cannot act. So it just shows how when we surrender to Krishna, he really does, give us his shelter and protects us from even the greatest danger. There's also a really suitable pastime that I wanted to share about Dhruva Maharaj. So, Dhruva Maharaj, when he was going through the distress of, his father not wanting to give him he wanted to sit on his father's lap, and his stepmother, tried to instigate so many ways to not let Dhruva Maharaj get close to his father. And Dhruva Maharaj became very angry and went to his mother Suniti, and Suniti advised him to go to the forest to seek Narayan or Vishnu. And here it says that the Lord does not want to award. Sorry, my apologies. So Dhruva Maharaj, when he was meditating, he came. So Narad Muni was there, and Narad Muni instructed him to meditate on Narayan. And Dhruva Maharaj had all these material desires in his heart. He wanted a kingdom greater than his father's. He wanted so many material things. And it says here, the Lord does not award pure devotee material opulence, even though he may desire it. But Dhruva Maharaj's case was different. So when the Lord appeared, the Lord knew that he was such a great devotee that in spite of having material opulence, he would never be deviated from love of God. So this example illustrates that a highly qualified devotee can have the facility of material enjoyment and at the same time execute love of God. This was, however, a special case for Dhruva Maharaj. But there was something else that I wanted to share, where Dhruva Maharaj says here, in the Hari Bhakti Sudoya Daya, there's an example where Dhruva Maharaj says, "My dear Lord, I have practiced austerities and penances, but because I was desiring to receive something from you, but in exchange you have allowed me to see you, who are never visible even to the greatest sages and saintly persons. I had been searching out some pieces of broken glass, but instead I have found the most valuable jewel. Therefore, I am therefore fully satisfied, my Lord. I do not wish to ask anything from your Lordship." So we can see here by Dhruva Maharaj, him having a heart full of material desires, by just getting the darshan of the Lord. He says that he was seeking out pieces of broken glass, but instead he has found the jewel. And I'm sure we can all relate that for us, for me personally, I was seeking out so many material happiness or qualifications or different aspects to find happiness in this world. But the chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, that has been the real jewel, to have the constant association with the Lord through His holy name. I know that really transforms the whole experience of this life. Another thing that I wanted to share is that Bharat Maharaj, he was actually on the level, when you talk about the stages of bhakti, Bharat Maharaj was on the level of bhava, and he lived a very Krishna conscious life, but when he went to the forest, and this is going to talk about this role of charity as well. But when he went to the forest, he saw a deer, that was, a bit destitute, and so he gave shelter to the deer, and he took care of the deer. But at the end of his life, all he could think of was the deer, and not what he was intending to do by going to the forest, to think of Krishna or Narayan. So in that way, Bharat Maharaj had to take birth as a deer, and then he became Jada Bharat, and eventually he realized he was self-realized, but he attained Krishna at the end. But we can see that, just by deviating from this principle of Isyavasyam, it can lead to us, deviating from our path. And an example that is given in the, just tell you which paragraph, in the 4th paragraph of Sri Isopanisad, of this mantra, is that charity. Sometimes we may live a life thinking, I want to be a social worker, I want to, give back to humanity. And we don't realize that this exchange actually binds us to the material world. Where we're not giving something in the spirit of Isyavasya, and it's sometimes you get this philanthropic causes where it's more about status, or there's always some transactional exchange now when you think of charities, but Srila Prabhupada, he actually implemented food for life. Where we're not only feeding humanity, but we're feeding them spiritually also, by offering them prasadam, which gives them great benefit. And actually, there's something that I found. So, in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 40, Krishna says, in this endeavor there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. So what I want to focus on is that there's no loss or diminution. So if we give mercy out to others, they are making some spiritual progress. And Srila Prabhupada actually states in the purport, 1% done in Krishna consciousness bears permanent results, so that the next beginning is from point of 2%, whereas in material activity, without 100% success, there is no profit. So you can see this perspective, like from a material point of view, you have to have 100% to get the result. But in spiritual life, even just 1%, can really benefit one in their life. And Srila Prabhupada uses the example of Ajamil, where he performed his duty in some percentage of Krishna consciousness, but the result he enjoyed at the end was 100% by the grace of the Lord. And then Srila Prabhupada further states that material activities and their results end with the body, but work in Krishna consciousness carries the person again to Krishna consciousness, even after the loss of the body. At least one is sure to have a chance in the next life of being born again as human being, either in the family of a great cultured Brahmana or rich aristocratic family that will give one a further chance for elevation. That is the unique quality of work done in Krishna consciousness. So at the end of Srila Prabhupada's purport, Srila Prabhupada presents the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindur by Srila Rupa Goswami, which is known as the Nectar of Devotion. And Srila Prabhupada actually says, we recommend this valuable book to all who are interested in performing the activities in the spirit of Sri Isopanisad. So when looking at the Nectar of Devotion, I just pulled through a few points that I'd like to share. So in chapter 6, so if one doesn't know how to engage in devotional service, the chapter 6 it covers devotional service in a vast, it is a vast list of what you can follow. But there are 10 items that are preliminary for, it says here, these 10 items are preliminary necessities for beginning the discharge of devotional service. So if a neophyte devotee observes this, he will quickly make advancement in Krishna consciousness. So I'll just list the 10. I personally found it very inspiring when I read it because, it's always nice to know the foundation when we're practicing, because sometimes we, get a bit caught up in different things. So number 1, accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of bona fide spiritual master. Number 2, becoming initiated by the spiritual master and learning how to discharge devotional service from him. 3. Obeying the orders of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. 4. Following in the footsteps of great acharyas or teachers under the direction of the spiritual master. 5. Inquiring from the spiritual master how to advance in Krishna consciousness. 6. Being prepared to give up anything material for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. This means that we are engaged in devotional service of Krishna. We must prepare to give up something that we may not like to give up. And also we have to accept something that we may not like to accept. Number 7. Residing in a sacred place of pilgrimage like Dwaraka or Vrindavan. 8. Accepting only what is necessary or dealing with the material world only as far as necessary. 9. Observing the fasting days of Anikadasi. And 10. Worshipping sacred trees like the banyan tree. So I thought that was a really nice list that we can, meditate on and see how we can apply it to our lives. The common theme, though, is that we have to have a spiritual master in our practice. In our practice of Krishna consciousness, it can get very bewildering if we don't have the right guidance, because we are still in the material world. And we're still dealing with, materialists and different aspects like our finances, our health, and there's so many things that we have to take into consideration. But if we have the guidance of the spiritual master, we know that we will get to our end destination, which is back home, back to Godhead. There's just something that I'd like to conclude with. It says that as devotees we're meant to be like a lotus flower, and they even describe this temple like a lotus flower emanating from the pond. So a lotus flower grows in a muddy pond, and that is compared to this material world with so many distresses and material problems. But the lotus transcends this, where it grows above the water. So we're still working in the material world, but we have elevated our consciousness above this material platform. And an interesting thing I read the other day is that the lotus leaf is actually called. It's known for its super hydrophobicity. Sorry, I didn't study biology, but this aspect that the leaf has is it doesn't soak water. So when water comes onto this leaf, it falls away. So I was actually, trying to meditate on that for my life personally, is that, although we're in this material world, we have to have a strong armor of our sadhana, of, a good quality japa, reading the shastra, following the instructions of the spiritual master, as well as engaging in service. So that is our armor for our engagement in this material world, so that we don't, or if anything comes up, like any material problems or challenges we face, it just slips away. So that is something that I took as one of the important lessons from this lotus. So I'd like to end there. Are there any questions or comments? We have Jai Prabhu, Saurabh Damodar Prabhu. Any corrections or add-ons that you'd like to present? Okay. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.